Our topic for discussion today is cultivation of oat. Oat, that is Avena sativa, belongs to the family Poaceae and has chromosome number twice and equal to 42, which is also known as Zy, is the most important cereal for the crop of winter season. It provides soft and palatable fodder rich in crude protein, which is about 10 to 12%. The green plant is good forage and makes good hay and silage. Green fodder contains about 10 to 12% protein and 30 to 35% dry matter. The oat grain contains about 66% carbohydrate, 11% dietary fiber, 7% fat and 17% protein. Oat inflorescence is a panicle and oat grain is called caryopsis. Oat ranks around 6th in world cereal production statistics, following wheat, maize, rice, barley and sorghum. Now let's see about the origin and history of oats. Oats are crop of Mediterranean origin. The domestication dates back to ancient times. Oat seeds are reportedly found in 4,000-year-old remains in Egypt. Hexaploid species, there is Avena sativa, which is called as white oat, as well as Avena byzantina, that is red oat, have common ancestor, which is Avena strigosa, which is a diploid species. Let's see about the area and distribution of oat. Oat is an important fodder crop of the world. Oat ranks around 6th in world cereal production statistics, following wheat, maize, rice, barley and sorghum. In India, it is grown in Punjab, Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and West Bengal. Now let's discuss about the economic value of this crop. The cholesterol lowering properties have led to wider appreciation of oats as human food. It reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes and regulates the blood pressure and improves insulin sensitivity. Oatmeal is chiefly eaten as porridge. Oat straw is also used as bedding material for cattle due to its soft, relatively dust-free and absorbent nature. Oat grass has been used traditionally for medicinal purposes, including balancing the menstruation cycle, treatment of dysmenorrhea and osteoporosis and urinary tract infections. Now let's have a look on the classification of oat. Besides the wild species, there are cultivated forms at each ploidy level. The first one is the diploid grey oat, which is Avena strigosa. The second one is the tetraploid, which is known as Ethiopia oat and Avena abyssinica. The hexaploid or the red oat, that is Avena byzantine. The common oat or white or yellow oat, which is also known as Avena sativa. The Chinese naked oats, that is Avena chinensis, and the wild oats, that is Avena fatua. Now let's come to the soil and climatic requirements for oat. Soil type. Almost any reasonable fertile, well-drained soil is suited if temperature and moisture conditions are favorable. Oat has been shown to tolerate acid soils with a pH of 4.5, but soils with pH up to 5.3 to 5.7 range for higher yield, and is also fairly tolerant to soil conditions. Oats generally make their best growth on loam soils, but produces satisfactory yield on heavy or light soils. Now let's come to climate requirements. Oat can be grown successfully for fodder purposes during Rabi season under both irrigated and rain-fed conditions. It requires a good temperature during germination, tillering and booting. High temperature at blooming increases the proportion of empty spikelets. The crop can be grown at temperature varying between 5 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. However, optimum temperature required is 25 degrees Celsius. Oats can be grown in areas where the annual rainfall range from 40 to 110 centimeter. Now let's see about the cultural practices of oat. Land preparation. The soil is plowed with marble plow after Kharif crop harvest to bring to a fine tilt as the seed is very small. The field is deeply plowed followed by 2 to 3 times harrowing or 4 to 5 intercross plowing with country plow. Planking is done after plowing to retain the moisture. The number of plowing depends upon the nature and type of weeds in the field. More number of plowing is required if there is perennial weeds. In rain-fed areas, the soil tillage is operated in the evening as evaporation of the soil moisture takes place if done during the hot day. Furrows are opened and kept to capture the dew during the night, and planking is done early morning to conserve the soil moisture. Let's see the sowing condition of this oat crop. Sowing time. The optimum sowing time is mid-October to mid-November. The seed rate and spacing. It is recommended to take 75 kg seeds per hectare for small seeded varieties, while the bold seeded varieties, the seed rate requirement is 100 kg per hectare. It is always better to sow the crop with seed cum fertilizer drill by maintaining row to row distance of 25 cm. Now let's see the seed treatment conditions. Seeds must be treated with azotobacter, which is a bacteria required for this crop. Oat seeds should be treated with fungicides like agrocyangian, thiram or vitavax at the rate of 2.5 gram per kg seed before sowing to protect the seed from associated diseases. Now let's see the sowing method. It can be planted with Kera or Pora method depending upon the moisture availability. Sowing behind plow and seed drill are preferred by most of the Indian farmers as the method gives a satisfactory result in the germination and plant stand. Cropping system. The following cropping system is followed in most of the Indian conditions. Sorghum followed by oat and followed by maize. Maize followed by oat and followed again by maize. Sudan grass followed by oat and followed again by maize with cowpea. Lobia followed by oat with mustard and again followed by maize with cowpea. Now let's see about the varieties and their adaptation region along with the yield. The first variety is Kent, which is adapted to the whole of India and having green fodder yield of 45 to 50 tons per hectare. OS6, which is adapted to the whole of India, having green fodder yield of about 40 to 50 tons per hectare. UPO212, adapted to the whole of India, 37 to 52 tons of green fodder yield per hectare. OL125, which is adapted to the whole of India, having green fodder yield of 35 to 48 tons per hectare. UPO94, which is adapted to the whole of India and is a multi-cut variety, having 45 to 50 tons per hectare green fodder yield. OL9, which is adapted to northern and northwestern India, is having 45 to 55 tons of green fodder yield per hectare. JHO810, which is adapted to Kashmir Valley, is also having 50 to 60 tons per hectare green fodder yield. JHO 822, which is adapted to central India and is a multi-cut variety having 45 to 55 tons per hectare grain for the yield. JHO 851, which is adapted to the whole of India and is a multi-cut variety having 50 to 55 tons of grain for the yield per hectare. The last variety is JHO 992, which is adapted to the Northeast India and Northwestern India, having a yield potential of 50 to 55 tons per hectare. Now let's come to manures and fertilizer applications. Applying 40 kg nitrogen per hectare at sowing time and 40 kg per hectare at first irrigation is beneficial. For multi-cut varieties, 40 kg nitrogen per hectare should be applied after each cut. In light soils, phosphorus should be applied at the rate of 40 kg per hectare at the time of sowing. Fertilizer placed directly with the seed can damage the young seedlings, and this is also called as fertilizer burn. It can affect the development of the seedling by temporarily or permanently damaging the roots. In most severe cases, it may result in die-off. It mostly happens when a dry period occurs after planting. For this reason, most planters have the ability to place fertilizer separately from the seed. If this is the case, placing the fertilizer 2 cm to 3 cm next to or below the seed is ideal. Now let's see about the water management or irrigations. In general, 3 to 4 irrigations are required in oat. First irrigation should be given 25 to 30 days after sowing, and the subsequent irrigation at an interval of 30 to 35 days. In case of multi-cut management, irrigation should be given after each cutting. Now let's see about the weed management or weed control. Interculture is generally not necessary, but the growth of weeds must be checked if the early stages of the crop by weeding if necessary. Pre-emergence application of 0.2 kg linuron per acre or post-emergence application of 0.2 kg 2,4-D per acre give effective control of weeds. Weed control is important in obtaining maximum yields. Broadleaf weeds can be controlled easily with the recommended quantities of appropriate herbicides. Because oats are often used as a nurse crop for establishing small seeded legumes, it is important that the herbicides should be chosen with this in mind. Weeds can reduce yields and the quality of the crop. Weed seeds that cannot be cleaned out and are considered foreign matter causing downgrading are other cereal crops, grains other than cereal crops, and the wild oats. Smaller weeds are easier to control than the bigger weeds. However, the recommended leaf stage for herbicide application must always be taken into consideration. Cultural strategies are always used to ensure that oats are planted on the fields free of these weeds. Other measures that should be taken when controlling weeds are: number 1, carefully reading of the instructions on the label of the herbicide before spraying. The second is spraying the herbicides at the correct leaf stage. The third one is making sure the calibration of the sprayer was done correctly. The fourth point is checking that the environmental conditions are favorable for spraying. For example, no wind or no rains. The fifth point is the person spraying the crops should always be wearing protective clothing. Now let's come to plant protection measures. Let's see the insects which are destructive to the crop. The bollworm. The presence of bollworm is generally noticed only once the larvae have reached the mid-instar stage inside the awns. Older ones and more mature larvae are generally less susceptible to insecticides and obviously cause greater damage than the small larvae do. Chemical interventions can be considered when 5 to 8 larvae are present per square meter. Now let's see the second destructive insect, that is grain slug. The symptoms include wide longitudinal stripe, development on damaged leaves. Currently, no insecticides are registered for oat to control this insect. Black sand mite or red-legged earth mite. The symptoms of attack of these insects are silvery white scars adjacent to the main vein of especially older leaves, dying off of small plants, etc. A single systematic insecticide is registered, although no threshold value is available. Now let's come to aphids, which are very destructive to the crop. The leaf sets and the inflorescence are covered with dark green aphids colonies with a slight white covering. Mottling and distortion of leaf may occur. Aphids can be controlled by spraying of malathion or endosulfan at the rate of 0.05% in the patches of aphid colony. Now let's see about the diseases attacking the crop. The first disease is covert smut, the causal organism of which is Ustilago cholerae. The symptoms associated of this attack are grains in ear of affected plants replaced by black mass of smut spores. The control may be done by seed treatment with emission at the rate of 2.5 gram per kg seed. The second disease is loose smut, which is caused by Ustilago aviani. The symptoms associated due to these attacks are grains transforming into black powdery mass of smut sori. The control may be done with seed treatment with Vitavex or Bevestin at the rate of 2 gram per kg seed. Harvesting of oats should be done from bud to milk stage. In case of multi-cut management, first cutting should be done 55 to 65 days after sowing and having the height of 60 cm, leaving a suitable height of 3 to 4 inch and subsequent cuttings at 45 to 50 days interval. Now let's come to the yield potential of oats. When grown for grain purpose, 16 to 20 quintal grains and 25 to 30 quintal straw per hectare is obtained. However, when grown as fodder, the yield is about 350 to 550 quintals of grain fodder per hectare. If the crop is left for seed after the first cut, then about 250 quintal grain fodder, 10 to 16 quintal of seed and 25 to 30 quintal of straw per hectare can be obtained. Oat is not only a good fodder crop for animals, but the grain's cholesterol lowering properties have led to the wider appreciation of oat as human food. It reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes, regulates blood pressure, and improves insulin sensitivity in human beings. As India is a land of cattle, growing proper fodder crop like oat is a must to give space for rabi crops, which otherwise would remain fallow, seen in many states of the country. Fodder crops are important for milk scatter for quality and quantity milk, which is one of the backbone of Indian economy. Using scientific technologies and improved packaging practices would enhance production of quality fodder year-round, connecting Kharif and Rabi seasons in India. With the increase in demand for milk, proper feeds are mandatory to keep the continuous availability of milk and milk byproducts. Hence, sufficient land has to be reserved for Rabi fodders like oat to keep the Indian economy prospering.